Hello, back again. Um, Good news, I got a new couch in the background. I had to get rid of my old one. My old uh, futon couch had to go. It had it for like past 5 6 years, and it was springs, and I had one spring that was popping up at the bottom. I could barely sit on it, and it was just really. Yes, I got a new. Thank God I got a new. My neighbor gave me that, so I just had to spend less money going to a shop and it's cleaned and everything because he makes sure that it's wiped off and the bugs and whatever. There's no bugs. No, thank God, no bed bugs or anything like that. But anyway, I'm starting out with the story of, and this is going to be called my Cincinnati story. Um, First of all, Cincinnati, Ohio is about an hour from where I live at. And I used to visit back there in the 90s because my mother had met a man that's where he was originally from, Cincinnati. So, they got married in the mid to late 90s, and before that, it actually started back in the late 80s. I started going down there. When I would go to Cincinnati, I never really thought about, never really, looked at it as any different than what it was like any other city I've been to, like in Ohio and the surrounding states and things like places like that. But what stood out. And so over the time, my mom married the guy. He's deceased, by the way, and his family is from down there. And off and on, stay at a hotel. We stay at one to stay someplace down there. Never really looked at it until one day I moved. When I moved to Cincinnati, that was a whole different. In to early 2000, and when I got down there, the first 3 years, it didn't faze me. Yes, it has some good touring spots. It got Kings Island on the outskirts. You have the football, the baseball, the museums, the 1 slave museum. Engineering museum and a couple of places like that. You have a couple universities and hospitals. Dated some women down there, and this first time even doing little community theater. But I had to do it in Cincinnati. I did it on the outskirts of Cincinnati. But the whole time I was living down there, I noticed something, and it's like unless you live down there in Cincinnati, Ohio, there's certain things you're not going to understand. You might not catch it at first, but Cincinnati is a kind of city. When you come there, people are pretty much to themselves, and it's a different vibe. I mean, unless you go to school there, born and raised there, most people are born and raised there. Some may never notice this, and some people, unless you get with the program, unless you have somebody down there. But once you have a relative or friend and move to Cincinnati, you might hear a little bit from them. And the reason why is just that people get down there, and this can happen anywhere. It's just one of the cities that I know because I'm from Ohio. It's just that it changes people. People you used to talk to all the time, call all the time, you might get it into, and all of a sudden they just don't want to talk to you. And what it is that some people take on the spirit of that city. It really they really take on my grandfather, who was living at the time, up until he died in 2009. I believe it was 2009. I believe, yeah, it was sooner. Yeah, it was about that 2009, 2010. He was nervous about me living in Cincinnati because when my uncle Gregory, he was an insurance man. He basically he was an insurance man, and he lived down there. And I don't know what happened to my uncle Gregory. My uncle Gregory also is deceased, but I didn't know this until later on, until my cousin Eli told me he had to recall an incident when he was driving down a highway in Cincinnati that somebody called me N-word. I was like, wow. This is when he was young. They were living down there. I said, I never really thought about that. And number two is that, of course, it was the one owner that she's no longer living. She had like a certain percentage of the ownership in the Cincinnati Reds, Marshott. They said because one time she made a controversial statement about athletes on the team, and she had to give up her shares of the Reds. So my grandfather, when I was living down there, he was petrified of Cincinnati because he's originally from Georgia, but he been in Cleveland a good portion of his adult life. And so I remember him saying, he called me Jimmy. He said, Jimmy, he said, that Cincinnati is not a good city. I'm like, what you mean, Granddaddy? He was telling me, just what my Uncle Gregory do. And he saw Cincinnati in Ohio, let's say like Ohio, like he saw some backward city in Georgia and Mississippi. And he was like, you gotta get out of here. I don't like that. That town is really prejudiced and racist. That city is really prejudiced and racist. I'm like, yeah, I've heard stories like that. And then my uncle, well, he's pretty much like my Uncle Jerome. He had some bosses down from Cincinnati, and they came up all the way because he worked for this company their headquarters is in Cincinnati, Ohio. So I remember him telling me right before he passed away that these people came all the way. One time he got real sick and he couldn't go to work for months. They drove all the way up from Cincinnati to make sure that he wasn't lying. These people drove all the way from Cincinnati. I'm like, wow. And they tried to prove that he was just trying to. And he had the same reaction. And I'm like, and he was kind of glad I left Cincinnati. And I'm like, wow. I didn't know, I never really thought about it. I knew it was some situations down there. But this is people. And so as I was living down there in Cincinnati, this is back in early 2000. Like I said, back in 2000, I stayed over in the Madisonville area of Cincinnati, and it's pretty much inner city, but on the outskirts. And it was like in the public housing. The building was like facing the woods. You had some. It was kind of back off the street, and you had some people that one time I was come inside, and luckily a friend of mine's son told these young men that they saw me in the parking lot and they was about to jump me because they felt like I looked scared or some crazy old mess like that. And this was a mess. And so luckily the guy who's his mother was my mother's friend said, hey, don't mess with, that's my cousin, because he was from Youngstown. And so, I guess they never did, but I was kind of mad, man, because I was like, and I was just shocked, like, why would someone jump on me? I ain't got nothing. I'm not in their mix or their clique or have, come across somebody, but this is how people there's some people down there just, and that was not the only time. I remember walking through a neighborhood over the Rhine, and went to go talk to this girl, and I met her offline. So I'm walking down the block and I'm trying to look in the building to see what building where she lived in. This is a true story. These dudes almost came like this about. One guy said, "What the f you looking at?" And I'm like, "Nah, dude, I'm just trying to go about my way. I'm not here to sell nothing, to take territory, whatever it was. I'm just minding my own business, walking through over the Rhine." And it was really strange. And luckily, I didn't get jumped or anything, but it's just I was like, "Hey man, I ain't in what you got there. I'm just minding my own business." And I met some chick down here. Come to find out, she was a weed head. And next time she called back, I made like I was somebody else. So there's no longer never. I know that was pretty petty way to go out. But that was one time. Another time when I was in Cincinnati, Ohio, is that I was working as a security guard downtown, and down at the main building, the main city hall. So I had to sometimes walk around the block, and so it was this donut shop across the street from City Hall, and so I didn't think much about it. It's early in the morning, and this one chick, she gave me some attitude problem because, and she was a black chick, and she was all nice to the white people, but when I came in, she just it ain't open yet, and just closed the door in my face. I said, "Damn." I said, "Okay, just it's no big deal, But I never went back to that donut place ever again. It's not because of the donut place, was just that it was she being a bitch, basically, in so many words. So that was another time, and that was one of the few times. And I was walking down the street, and I was looking, and I kind of glanced over at this older man in the car. He threatened to jump on me for no apparent reason. Because I looked at him a certain way, he threatened wanting to fight me, and I didn't I didn't flick him off or anything. I just don't know what. And this is in the early 2000s. I don't know what's in the water down there, man. I tell you, and that's been my experience. And then being pulled over by the police when I first got there, living in Madisonville, because I didn't have my license plate light didn't work. So, and I lived not too far from the block. Cop pulled me over. I've been pulled over by police in Cincinnati. I say about 5-6 times for no. Only time I think I can honestly say I got pulled over, it was by a sheriff deputy, because I was kind of going a little bit fast because I was working at a pharmacy down there trying to get back, and it was raining, and I know I shouldn't did that, and there was another time I kind of accidentally went through the light, trying to catch the light, and he caught me. But that's the only two I can honestly say. The two times I can feel that it was justified for the police to stop me. Them other times, when I first moved down there, I worked working at the same pharmacy job. I leave home. I leave from the building. The building's up like in Mason, Ohio, and I leave. And as I leave Mason, I get pulled over by the police officer, and so, and I guess at the time there was some construction going on. I'm in the '87 Chevy Nova. What can I put some construction equipment in the '87? And you know how '87 Chevy Nova is. It's a small batch car, so it's 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm leaving to go home. but I couldn't even hardly work at night down there. And Blue Ash, that's another town. I got pulled over twice in Blue Ash for no apparent reason. Just no. I had an older vehicle. One time I had an older vehicle. It was like an old Suzuki, and just driving through, and all of a sudden this cop started getting behind me, and he started following me. So I was pulled over. So didn't much about it, and so I let the cop go on by his way. He waited till I left that parking lot and followed me again. And so he pulled me over for some bogus stuff. Then there's the second time I was working in Blue Ash, I got pulled over twice. And it was over some bullshit, man. I mean, it was just like, I didn't run a red light as anything. They just like to pick at you, because it was like, I just felt like it was like it's a Castafo area. I mean, it was just it was something living down there as far as the police. The only time I got a little relieved by living down there when I stayed over in Kentucky. But Kentucky police don't really mess with me in Kentucky, believe it or not. I had no problem with Kentucky police, no Newport, because I lived in Covington, Kentucky, and I never had no trouble with Florence police. I never had no trouble with Kentucky. But when I came to Ohio, for some reason, Cincinnati, Ohio, and its suburbs, some of the cops down there, some of the police places, they're a mess. And I wasn't really, and it was time of night. I'm not around doing something I ain't supposed to be doing. I was just going to work for sometimes for some temporary services, and this happened to me. And that was my encounters with police in Cincinnati. And one Cincinnati police, the rest of them was the outskirt police. It's police on the outskirts. The ones on the outskirts are the worst in Cincinnati. Yeah, they're pretty jacked up. Another time I can say this when I was working down there. People, you work alongside people, and it depends on who you are. If they, I was working at being like one of the event staff, and event staff is they do different stadium events for like football, baseball. So one time I went to work for this company. I tell you about the companies I worked for. That was one of them, and these people, even some of the people, didn't even come and let me know that once the game was over, I probably could have got left down at this one place in Lexington, because nobody, usually they come and relieve you, say, hey, you can go, or captain or manager say, hey, fade back, because we don't have to, because once you see those people in those yellow shirts, you can fade back. But nobody told me anything. I'm standing there looking like a dummy, the only one in the crowd, and no one didn't have the guts to even tell me, and just to be so I was pissed. I got on the bus and just looked at some of these people that they were just in disgust, that no one has the decency to at least let you know that the event is over, we about to get back on the bus and go back to Cincinnati. And that was one of the cases down there. And just working for different employers down there, there was some very good employers down there, and there was some shithole employers down there. But I say this, it's like, and people, one minute that you get to talking with people, once they find you didn't go to school or college down there, you're not going to really notice it at first, but they're kind of very standoffish. And if you got any friends and relatives down there, they will change on you. I'm trying to tell you, man, they're going to change. Some people, somebody might listen to this video, might say, "Oh, Cincinnati, this, that, and other." And I say, "Yeah, it has some good touristy spots, and maybe the architecture of the buildings, and but this is the reality." Living down there, and I lived down there from 2001 to 2000. When the time 2007, I couldn't wait to get the heck up out of there. I couldn't wait to get the heck, because it was like it's something. And I think what this woman said was one time that she said when she was coming over the city, that the city has a certain presence. She said, "I felt something dirty," and I said, "Whatever you felt," I said it. I believe it, because it's a city that's basically set on on a couple of hills, and it was shaped like snakes. And so I don't know what that maybe that has something to do with the spiritual realm of it, or a certain spirit, because I try to figure that out. Like, wow, why are some people down here so, shifty, shady? But once they get down there, man, I have talked with people living here in Columbus. I know people that even in where I'm from that moved to Cincinnati, you ain't never heard from them again. And I don't know, it's just something about that city, man, that gets people to just, they cut you off once you get down there, man. People get a certain demeanor, a certain attitude, and it transcends between not just black and just not just, yeah, it has its racial problems, but the white people is just the same as the black and anybody else. It's just that when you get down there, it's a certain attitude that some people display. I cannot explain it, and I live down there, and people, they stand out. They really do. They really, when you go there, if you live there for a certain amount of time, you first go there, you're not gonna really notice it. But when you live there for a certain amount of time, that's when you start noticing, hey, and I mean, just don't go to one area. I'm talking about get to know the whole, every little borough, not little borough, but every little township, everything, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Don't just, go in the good and the bad and everything in between. You know what I mean? And they got from the downtown, good and bad and everything between to the areas. And if you're that kind of person, just watch, where you go at night, just like any other city, where you go, because it has a certain element down there. And then the second time, there's another time I lived in Cincinnati. The northwest part of Cincinnati is kind of race. Some people are kind of prejudiced up there. I lived in this, and I was looking at this article, and it's like near the Coleraine area. And I remember I lived on the borderline of Coleraine in Cincinnati. So, in this landlord, because I know about it literally had to be God that let me give this, because this landlord, I guess he was thinking that he rented to black people, that it was going to be the black people that's going to have all the problems, because he was asking any of my neighbors, because I was a younger guy, so he would ask the neighbors about if I had any bad company. And some neighbors had told me, they were white, they told me that the landlord was asking me to have about your company, you had a lot of company or anything like that over, and I said no, I never came over, I never disrespected his property, I never, he came in, he met my partner was in pretty good condition, other than, like I said, I had a lot of clothes at the time, but that was about it. But the people gave him the hard time was these other people, and they were white, and they was the ones causing the rift, the raft. One neighbor over me, even other neighbors was in the building. This guy, he was a white guy. He had about a bunch of people over, and a bunch of pot and med heads over me. And one time he got to with the one lady's boyfriend up over me, because she didn't like the fact, and she called her boy, because she was a white lady and she had a black boyfriend, and the guy was really nice and everything. He was real laid back. He's not the kind of person that would say anything, but he he went down and asked him, could he keep it down? And next thing you know, and make this one other neighbor, he picked up on for his side. The neighbor was causing all the trouble. It made it seem like the black guy was the one who was trying to, was the one that was basically instigating, but it wasn't. And it was certain things like that, and just to get the new neighbors, they ain't saying things because just to see where they at, but they were all in this building. They were just doing their thing, and then my one neighbor who I thought I was really cool with, he was a white dude. He had him and his girlfriend lived next door, and a couple of times I would go and associate with them and hang out with them. And one time his girlfriend said the most profound thing to me. And years ago, before they met, she dated a black guy. And every time they would get into an argument, he would bring that up, that she dated a black guy. Minus, she didn't have a baby with the black guy. They would just go on together for a while. And he had a fit. And to this day, and he, how could you go with someone like that? Blah, blah, this and blah. And here I thought the dude was cool when he was hanging out with me. Needless to say, they left before I did. But that was, and this one guy I thought was pretty cool. This was really crazy. We was out there talking, and so he invited me back to his apartment, and he had one of these little figurines. I forgot to mention this one time too. And it was off of, I forgot, it was a little black character and a couple other little characters. This is a white dude. And it kind of threw me off. What he said was like, this is my little niglet right here. I'm like, what? And he was called the little niglet. He said that. I'm like, what the? I'm like, dude, you're an ass. You're an asshole, basically. So this was the second neighbor. The third neighbor, it was two other neighbors. One young dude was younger than me. He was like he was just he got his apartment because he's like 18, 19 years old. So I think his dad had to co-sign for him. Well, I was living out there in Coleraine, and so he's had all these drug buddies. White dude had all these drug buddies come over, and they let all the other dudes go, but they arrested the black dude. They let all the other dudes go. Okay, get out of here, and they arrested the black dude. And then the one dude, that young dude that stayed next door to me, he was goofy. He allowed his company, and they were loud and doing all kinds of things. I didn't know what was really going on till finally towards the end of he was moved out. When I looked at his apartment, they trashed his apartment. They graffitied the outside the windows. They did some damage to his apartment. And he was like, I'm sorry. He said, get your ass out of here. And it was one of the most craziest things I have ever witnessed living in Cincinnati. And this one building I stayed in Cincinnati before I moved to Coleraine. I first moved there. I should have known. I should have never took this, but I was kind of desperate. I was kind of desperate to want to leave the one place to leave Madisonville. But I moved into this really another crap hole down there, because when they didn't clean the apartment good right away, you have those fans that keep the circulation going. It had this much dust on the fan. They didn't even hardly clean when they did. They didn't clean the apartment really well. Someone left a couple roach spray bottles in there, and I was like, what is with it was dead roaches. I was like, what the hell? And I was like, oh man. So I had to I wasn't there that long. I had to get up and jet, because it was like I had to throw some stuff out, and because I didn't want to take them roaches with me. If there's any roaches, more roaches are left. So it was really it was an interesting experience living in that building. It was on, and that apartment was in Mount Airy, which is down the street from Coleraine. And another time, this is call it my Cincinnati experience. I might as well call it that. And there in the outskirts, like I said, working down there. I had this one case where the one company I was working for, this other company was a transportation company, and they were run by these people. It sounded like they were They sounded like they had an African accent, and they did nursing. In fact, they headquarters up here in Columbus. So they opened up a transportation company. It was predominantly all black. I said, this is cool. We got a all black company down here. All right, because I was working for this other transportation company when Peter met. But these people, man, kind of find out they was doing some foul stuff. For a while, they seemed like they was going good until the state caught up with them. And I don't know what they messed up their paperwork. It was a whole bunch of people came down from the state and went through their books. And I don't know, they was committing some fraud with because Medicare payments or Medicaid payments. They was doing something that it was a whole team of people came in there dressed in clothes and da-da-da-da. I'm like, what's going on? The next couple of days they were out of business down there. And it was just a crazy experiences down there. When I lived in Kentucky, Newport is pretty nice and nicely touristy here. Like I said, it's nice to see like the visit, to see the tourism and things like that. But to live down there, that's a whole different ball game. And it's good to go. If you go to school there, you go to college. Yeah, go to the college, get your degree, and get up out of there. But yeah, that's like I said, some pluses and some minuses too. When I lived in Kentucky, Covington, Kentucky, that was an experience in itself. It was okay when I first moved there, and I lived not too far because I'm like 3 or 4 blocks from downtown Covington. And what happened? The reason why I really moved towards the end, because you can have no more than one vehicle on the street. If you had 2 vehicles, somebody would complain because there was in certain areas of Covington, there's no parking lots. Most of the places are parked on the street. So you got some people that would call one time. Right before I left, they called the cops and had the cops come and mark my tires, and I had like an older truck in the car down there, and it was this some bitter old neighbor, and I always try to get along with people, get along, and but they just this one woman, black woman, she had to have some bug up her butt down there, so and so I believe it was her that called had to mark my car, so I had to take my car back over and park it over where my mother then lived. And the one guy, when I first moved down there to Covington, he told me about the neighborhood. He was a white dude. He told me, he said, hey, whatever you do, he said, don't look intimidated down here. He said, because there's some people, they'll try to intimidate you. So I said, okay. So I had to I didn't pretty much look intimidated. I didn't look. So I took his advice and just kept to myself. But you got some people in the little smaller towns. They kind of hang out on the corner and had a little store there. So, because sometimes I've been in that store once or twice. It's like a little corner store, and I never, but that was the last time. But no one ever really bothered me in Covington. Other than the knucklehead neighbors I had. I had a couple of. And the police, but like I said, the police never bothered me in Covington. It's small, it's laid back, and Florence is really nice. I went to school in Florence. I went to a business school in Florence, right over there from. It's like a little It's not at the mall, but it's at a plaza over there, and it's not too far from the airport. Um, but it was really nice. Florence, Erlanger is okay. Florence is okay. Certain parts of Erlanger, I did experience. One time I think it seemed like there's one area that want to rent to blacks, and there's one little part because they kind of when I went to go told me about the apartment, they all of a sudden said the apartment was filled up. They told me the apartment was available. All of a sudden, the apartment is also as soon as I show up down there, it's gone. So that was the one only time. But it was really an experience living down there. Living in the Cincinnati region. Like I said, I remember riding down the block one time. I was over in this on the other side of Newport, this little town, and I was again. I'm out there trying to find some date out there looking for some woman, and I was in this one neighborhood in Kentucky, and it was in some of Newport and some of Covington. The areas are mixed, black, white, rich, poor, small, whatever. But this one area, not too far down the road from Newport, was really prejudiced or racist. From what I heard, a couple people told me. And my neighbor who was white, he told me about certain people he worked with. He was a roofer, that they were kind of racist. Because they asked him as a white guy, why would you live down there in Covington, all them N-words down there, blah, blah, blah. And he just kind of like, hey, they don't bother me. And because a lot of these guys are up in Independence and some of the other northern Kentucky areas and I'm like, wow, really? And he was a real cool dude. He kind of hit me to the northern Kentucky. He's a hillbilly himself, but he was real cool. And yeah, when I went over to this one part, I forgot what that little town was. I don't know, Mays, something Kentucky. It was some part of Kentucky, not right down the road from Newport, going like east of there. So I get out, and I go to meet this girl, and I'm walking along and trying to figure out what street is on. Some dude went back and said, hey, there's an N-word walking down the street. This was in like early 2000. And I'm like, what? Did he call me the N-word? This was in Kentucky. This is in some part right over the river in northern Kentucky. But it was not Newport. It was right down the road from Newport. And it was not in Covington. But it was like, yeah, there's certain areas in northern Kentucky and Cincinnati. It's just, from living there, and there's a couple times I went to a restaurant and people kind of like ignored you. They won't even. They just walk past you. Like you go to order food, whatever, and just because one time I was supposed to meet a coworker down there, and it's just that they will always you don't belong here. This was in near the Hyde Park area, outside Hyde Park, and this is like it's a whole different class of people down there. And it was a white female met down there. So that had anything to do with it, like I said. But it's just this time because she asked me to meet her somewhere. But this has been my experience with Cincinnati, man. And my father's people, at the time he was my stepfather at the time, and he had like 8-9 kids, and he was a Papa Rolling Stone, so to speak. He had 3 kids in Cincinnati, and he had like 5-6 of them, 2 in Florida, 2 in Texas, and 2 or 3 in one state in Illinois. And he had great grandkids, and he was a hot mess in itself. But my mother loved that dude, man. She loved that. I mean, she loved it. They ride together. He's still trying to keep up with the. He's one of those kind of dudes, man, that didn't let the streets go. You know, he's still trying to pick up. He was doing the stuff that was pick up old ways of the street because he get these cats, he get these people, man, and you can tell if you're a black person, you know what I'm talking about. He get one of these street cats that just never, ever, ever. They never stop doing what they do. What they did in the 80s and 90s is still doing what they doing from 80s, 90s, hustling and what the hustle language and the old lingual and he been locked up in 3 or 4 institutions and one was in Texas and Florida and my mother's like fascinated because he can tell his jail and back in his day doing a 5-finger hand discount on some different places and it was really, I'm like, wow, you really picked the winner, Mom. Like, you really picked something that just, and his, his son, his one son, so that, he had one son that go in jail, would get in trouble, go in jail every year. He get caught on some, doing some stupid stuff and would go back and forth to jail. I mean, it was just, I don't know if he finally cleaned up his act, but he was doing some hood rat stuff, man. I mean, just some hood stuff and just, and yeah, that, the one couple of his kids were accomplished. It's like he had his one son lived in Texas and daughter lived down there. They doing pretty good. The one oldest daughter was doing pretty good. They still doing pretty good. The grandkids doing good. But it was just, it was something. And my mom's family didn't really like him. Didn't care for him all that because of his past. And they were just seeing at the time that he was using my mother because she was working at Packer Electric. And they didn't really care for him too much. And there were some people in my family that they thought he was cool, but like my cousins, they thought he was kind of cool. But they were really shocked towards the end because after he died, my mother, they never really, his sisters never really like came over and say, and my aunt, this would really disturb my aunt, like, how come, she said, how can that family be so cold? And I tried to explain to my aunt how people are in Cincinnati. I said, Cincinnati people, and people don't believe this, man. Cincinnati people stick with Cincinnati people. And I don't know, it's just that this is my village, this is my tribe. And even if they can see you, but they don't necessarily receive you, and it's been like that. And the only reason why they really, because that's their brother's wife, but they really, after he died, I knew that the family was going to do a 180. Some of the people were going to not really like acknowledge her and everything after work. I seen this in this family a long time ago. I see how the way they were. I mean, with certain and the ones that were cool in the family, most of them passed away. But people ain't who they say that they are. And this is from my experience. And living from one part of Ohio and going to another part of Ohio, I can vouch for this. I can say this is from my experience. Now somebody else can go to Cincinnati and tell you a whole different story about Cincinnati. They can make it like it's like the clouds come on. Because they live out there in the suburbs and they probably got the corporate banker job. But to begin under the ground level of that city and walk through and know from the poor to the rich to everything in between, that's how, because I've been in the well-to-do areas too, and there's some nice areas out there, and met people from out there in the well-to-do areas, and there's some nice territories, but this is a part of it. That's why I can speak on it. But some people had good experiences with Cincinnati, but I'm telling you from my experience, because I worked in the city, downtown, to the east and west of the suburbs, over the river, and lived over in the river, worked over in northern Kentucky, worked at the Cincinnati, Kentucky International Airport, worked over doing transportation with the railroad companies, with different railroad outfits down there, and so I pretty much been there, did that, and done that. Worked along people's side who done valets with people. Worked for a man. He was a gay man. He owned a valet company down there. He was pretty decent dude. You know, him and his partner. They were all right. Worked with another valet guy. He owned property on the side. Him and his partner had a valet company. So I have, and they were valets. They would do valet from different parts of northern Kentucky, Covington, Cincinnati. Do some stuff with the university. Go up to like downtown Dayton. Do like Dayton's harmonica and the Dayton Museum up there. I don't know if he still have that contract with them up there, but he would have his own valet, and I worked with him. Excuse me. And he was okay, but other than that, the temp companies, they're pretty good for temporary job service, and I worked in some nice places down there, some hard working factories and printing shops and different areas. Excuse me. In fact, I ran into a couple of people from the town where I was originally from. One guy that I knew because I grew up with him and his brothers in the neighborhood, and he was like a well shot down there in this little food distribution company down there. And but after a while, it's just people change. Oh, I'm gonna tell you, you go down there, they change. They're gonna change on you. So be prepared. If you go and work in Cincinnati, live in Cincinnati, be prepared. If you just outgoing, nice, everybody, family, when neighbors get together, Cincinnati might not be your spot. If you want a small town, we all get together and neighbor to neighbor, and Cincinnati people are Cincinnati people. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. You'll see. You'll see. You might meet a couple good people down there, but not everybody's the same down there. You'll a few good co-workers and neighbors, because that's a whole different scenario. Columbus people, they okay. You got some people kind of standoffish, but at least they'll kind of make contact with you a bit more, because everybody come from some part of Ohio and neighboring states. But even from someone from Columbus is slightly more cooler than people from Cincinnati, my opinion. And like I said, I lived in Cincinnati from 2000 to 2007. I've been here from 2007 to the present. And you got some good areas. Like I said, I never really had any problem with the police up here, other than I've been pulled over twice by I take that back 3 times, because one time I was with this guy who was doing scrap hunting. Another time I got pulled over because this motorcycle cop claimed I was going a couple miles over the speed limit. Another time I got pulled was by a Perry Township police, and for some reason, I guess it was, I don't know, I didn't change a certain lane right, whatever, but it's not like since I lived on this side of town, where I live at now, I haven't had no problem with the sheriff or police down here. But when I was down there in Cincinnati, I got pulled over by the police. I don't know what it is. I mean, I don't know. It's just, I don't know what it is. And not that there's crime happened. This crime happened there like it as well as here in this part of Ohio. But as a person that been in Cleveland, lived, got family in Cleveland, family in Youngstown, lived in Cincinnati, been in Columbus, been to Toledo, been to Dayton, been to every little major city in Ohio. I can tell you this. I can honestly tell you from an Ohio experience. My personal opinion, if you're gonna come and start your career, it's here. Even though they don't have really like a national football team like Cincinnati Bengals and Cincinnati Reds, like Cleveland and Cincinnati do, but it's cool, laid back. I mean, Columbus is kind of cool, laid back, and it's up and coming city. That's fact. But yeah, in Cincinnati, it has this, but it's like I was saying, it's kind of up and coming, but you have to carry a certain demeanor in order to survive down there. But if you just a kind of flaky kind of person and just maybe you can blend and click right in, and you kind of flaky or your personalities, whatever, you have to have a certain in order to blend in with them. And that's just, I'm just keeping it real. And again, it has this policy issues with race and things like that, of course, but because I've encountered that down there too. But yeah, when my grandfather told me that, it really shocked me. Like, wow, man, he was petrified. I lived down there. He was really petrified. And if my sister is here, you can ask her, man, because sometimes she said, they call me Jimmy up in Cleveland. Jimmy gotta get up out of here, Jimmy. Like I said, Granddad, I'm gonna be all right. It's okay. And finally, I told him I left Cincinnati. He was so relieved. I mean, he was worried, and I don't know. I said, "What is it about? Why was he was worried? Like, I mean, he was just concerned. I don't know what my Uncle Gregory said to him, what he encountered down there, or maybe what my grandfather encountered down there, but he didn't like Cincinnati, Ohio. He couldn't stand. He was, and like I said, and that was two stories. And they've been in Cleveland all their life. And like I was telling my Uncle Jerome, who's like my father's best friend, the workers, his company guy come up there because he's working for his company, making sure that, and he was working at his company for like 20, 30 years. And they just wanted to make sure that he was sick. And I'm like, wow. And I know with that kind of spirit, because I've kind of people who work living down there, got that kind of spirit down there. And this is what will make sure that he's sick. Not that you can't find that anywhere else, but it's just But I was watching a few videos and people doing some, and then there were some videos pointing out the good point. Yeah, you, like I said, go there, vacation. It's just I'm going to just tell you, it's good to see. You're gonna see the stadiums and the museums and things like that. Maybe a few eatery places down there. But I'm telling you, as someone who lived down there from 2007, do not. If you go down there, you're gonna have to have a certain demeanor about you. But if you just outgoing West Coast, small town family, hey, we get together, and don't expect the neighbors to be like that with you down there. Don't expect some people to be with you down there. People, they carry a different vibe down there. I'm telling you. And some people, maybe someone might get offended that watch this video. They love Cincinnati. They think highly of Cincinnati. That's them. And I'm just telling you from someone that's on the outskirts that live down there, that certain amount of time, and been over years. Like I said, I just spot this going down there first time, back in the early 80s and 90s, because I'm on what was talking. Because at the time, she would stay with his mom down there, and I never really thought about it when I first went down there in the 80s and 90s, and then hung out with his nephew, and his nephew was a character. Yeah, Monty is a character. Monty, that's his name, and he's the kind of guy that, how can I say this? he likes to be seen to be shown. He's one of the kind of people. Like one time, you know, somebody could be like some strangers could be sitting there and having a conversation. This used to bug the crap out of me. What he do? He was just jumping, dipping that conversation. He had no filter. I mean, just don't have no common sense. And then one time he had the nerve, the clown, because a couple times I went out with him, and we was at this strip bar, and it was like over in Covington. It's like a little hillbilly bar, and he get to this. We get over there, man. We the only two black dudes in this bar, man. And this one hillbilly dude, this good like 7 feet tall. He got 2 or 3 of his friends in the bar, and Monty's sitting close to him. He get mad because he asked the guy, could he put the cigarette out? I'm like, Monty, and the guy like, hey, leave me alone, blah blah. I said, Monty, chill out, man. I don't want no stuff. And then they almost got to the argument. I had to get his behind up out of there. Man, we could have jumped on and beat they behind. Yeah, we could have been thrown in jail too. You got one that he think he's about to get into some rumble, get into some fight, and this a time to do something. It's time not to do something. And this stupid Negro, we in the hillbilly, one of these hillbilly strip joints, getting into with one of these people. You know what I'm saying? It's not gonna look good in no northern Kentucky doing some stuff like this. And he go back. His father had to tell him like, "Hey, y'all could have got yourself hemmed up over there." I said, I'm trying to tell him. And then the next one time he went out to a club, right? Then we over in Cincinnati, and this little bar, it's like one of the bars that it's like crowded. It's like crowded. Bunch of us, hood dudes. Everything coming up in there, and I'm like, oh man. And I just didn't like the environment because, like I said, what if somebody come in here? You know how some people might see somebody there and act a nut and pull out a gun and start shooting somebody. It's like you got one exit. There's no other exit in the building. It's like it was one door, and he was kind of telling everybody, man, picking at me because I was kind of nervous. And hell yeah, it's just some environments I don't trust because some people. They don't got, if someone don't like somebody in there and you get some hood Negro that want to shoot up the whole damn place. I don't want to be shot up because behind something like that. I ain't got I ain't got nothing to prove. I ain't going out. I ain't getting no bullet. I ain't taking a bullet for nobody over some dumb stuff. And if I can help it, I ain't going into no environment. Man, you can't be scared, man. You can't be scared, man. Like, it ain't about being scared. It's about using some common sense. But he was the kind of individual that don't use no common sense. I mean, and that's why I didn't want to be around him half the times. I mean, he go around. We can't even go into a different environment. We go around some white people, and he just want carry that same kind of mentality, Can't do that. You black, you talk, what I'm talking about. Can't carry that all loud. Hey, yeah, like what the? He did that. He saw some, because he works as a janitor at a school, right? And these some professional teachers and stuff like that. And this Negro did the same stuff. And the guy's like, oh, this guy, he's a real one. I'm like, yeah. And mine just laughed, and I was like, man, he just insulted you, He did like a real indirect insult. That's how he like, yeah, come on, man. And he would do something, just pick at some kids because our basketball team is better than your basketball team. I mean, it was just some wild. I'm telling you, it was some wild stuff being next to this dude. I couldn't be next to this, even though he's my stepdad's nephew, but he was the only decent character. like I said, his sons, it was some hood stuff. Cause one time I went with his son somewhere, and we went across town, and he got started getting nervous. I'm like, "What you nervous about?" And he was nervous because he saw some dude that him and some dude stuck, jumped or robbed or something like. I'm like, "Are you serious?" And I'm like, "Wow." I'm like, "Really?" We over in this neighborhood, whatever, and you jump some dude. Like I said, being that hood stuff, man. You guys always be careful of those kind of hood buddies. I'm telling you, just trying. And I said, now, if that dude would have had a gun or had some partners with some guns, we'd have been gone because they didn't recognize who he was, Trey. We would have been gone. And like I said, he's one of the dudes that, man, and now, right before he left, my mom was telling me, because Trey got it, his other son, they call him Furby. Furby picked up the gang lifestyle. Because I saw Furby when he was like 8, 9 years old, and now he's like a young man. He picked up the gang lifestyle. And right before his granddad passed away, my mom was telling me about this. He said he's a real bright, smart, good-looking kid, but he became part of that life. I was like, wow. And he was, innocent little boy when I seen him, but I was like, man, he's not the innocent boy that you knew. And needless to say, he got some gang activity, leader of a gang, whatever. And his father, I don't think his father did much to be his part of his life, because his father it was like a generational curse, you know what I mean? Like, they just, trying to be a ladies' man, be a back dog, and do all this scandalous stuff out here in the street. Every once in a while, maybe they go be bothered with their kid, but they was never being that father figure, just being, because he's trying to be a ladies' man and got a baby mama over here, dealing with a crazy girlfriend over here. His girlfriend is crazy about get him locked up and all this wild, way out and crazy land stuff. So I was like, I asked my mother, what did the hell why we married into his family for? And everybody that my stepdad knew was either someone that been locked up in prison and lived that life, that street life. And you learn about the street lingo from the 60s and 70s, what they did. Yeah, man, we used to throw some dice back in the day, Yeah, that's my dog over there, and yeah, we did some time down in the plant down there, really. Just telling a story like this, and it was just, I'm like, wow, this is you really picked the winner. He come out with the mentality in his late 60s and stuff, still trying to be a hustler, trying to, he was doing that stuff up until 3 or 4 years before he died. Shooting up and having a dope boy come by his house and down in Cincinnati. And I'm living, at the time staying. That's why I had to move to Columbus, man, because my mother wanted to be around this dysfunctional stuff, and she's like, it's okay, it's quiet, okay. I'm like, but Mom, I said, come on, this is crazy. And it was just dysfunction after dysfunction down there. My I could write a movie about this. They're like, you cannot make this up. I'm telling you, man. This is, you're like, no, you gotta be lying. No, this is what I've been through. And every hood, low down scoundrel my stepdad knew, and they say that's his cousin. We had this, one time I went down to for the holidays. I'm gonna spend time with me and him and my mother, just be doing the family thing, right? And I think it was Thanksgiving, and it was living in this one area. So once I get down there, right, we got this other young man who is not related to him, but he felt sorry, so he took in. And so one time, and I didn't know this before, his friend Bill told me this, that the young man was when my mom would go at night, they let him stay the night, he bring girls up and smoking weed up in the house. And so one time Bill, because him and Bill used to do that stuff, right? had to run him up out of there. And I used to wonder why he used to wear these dark glasses, dark jacket, all this dark, look like he's like a black Gothic with all the dark stuff. And I'm like, oh my Lord, and he was a handful. He started out being a decent man because he had a job, working at a grocery store. But I said, have it ever dawned on you why nobody want to be bothered, knowing his relatives don't want to be bothered with this young man? Nobody. I mean, I said he ain't got no friends, no family would take him in. Like, wow. But my stepdad would taking these strange low down hood nigga, and they stuff. And I'm like, man, and this my mother would just be sitting up there, and it would just make me mad. It got on my nerves. I feel good to just talk about it now, but this is without I encountered even going down and even visiting, because after I left, I would go down there and visit my mom because my mother was living down there. And some of his friends were cool, but you got some guys that never, and you see a lot of these gentlemen that's trying to live up until they get up in the late 60s and late 50s and late 50s and 60s. They still thinking that they can run the game and live that life and be still drinking and smoking and shooting up and doing all that stuff, and that stuff catches up to you at some point in time, and they end up taking his friends out. In the end, they end up paying the price. And now that's down there now. But we pretty much, once my mother left there, I kind of the only people that my mother talked to, like two people, like one was his friend and one was her friend down there. But we don't even hardly talk to that side of the family no more, and it was kind of messed up because even though my stepdad did, there was some conflict in their marriage at the time, but my mother loved him, but his sisters, they just, once he died, they kind of cast her to the curb, and said, well, my aunt was like, they didn't invite her out to the house, knowing that they said, how can they go to church? How can people be like that? My aunt Brenda, who's my mother's sister, telling me, I'm like, Brenda, I'm trying to tell you, Cincinnati people are Cincinnati people. They look out for their own. Because I seen it when I went with them on a trip down into Kentucky. They stay in their own little clan, and they had relatives that's down there. They got their own little. I seen it among their people, and when they came to Youngstown, I seen it. They got their own little clique. They only got their own little clan. I mean, it's not no one really come over and trying to be at least talk. I'm not saying you got to open up and tell you, but they didn't want to come over. They was just all click among each other, and we was down down in this place called Danville, Kentucky, and it's like, wow, they ain't going over and talking to the other cousins or other people, and I'm watching them and I'm watching the children. I'm sitting back looking about that. I'm like, wow, they really something. They really something. And it's sad that you got people in the family like that don't even want to connect with other people, but that's related to you. But I mean, I got some people, but at least even with my distant cousins, I mean, I got a few distant cousins in Youngstown that act kind of funny, but overall they're gonna speak. Overall we gonna connect. Overall when we get in the setting. I mean, we may not really connect like we used to do, but not to the degree like they did. It was, and I never would say anything. I would never say anything bad or anything, but I just sat back and watch, and I would just stay quiet. And it was just I saw it. Even when we did a family travel, they would go to we went down to a different state, down to a different town in Kentucky. In Kentucky, Danville people they're very laid back people down there. But it's like they bring in that Cincinnati city mentality down. I'm like, wow, really? I'm like, man. As this is your own your own people. You know, I mean, only person I think really said things was they want Aunt Barb. She was the only one that seemed to kind of mingle out. Everybody else like kind of like strangers. Like, you know, you sit around a bunch of foreigners or something like that. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. They just went. They couldn't wait to get once the event was over. Let's back, and they zoomed back up to Cincinnati because they got something very important to do. The important thing to do was nothing. You know, and yeah, it was really an experience living down there and knowing and living next to people and living in an environment down there, being related to someone down there. And I really didn't have any really friends down there. I really didn't. I didn't make friends down there. Even though I worked with some people down there, I didn't really make friends. Because it's just people, some people are just, they flaky. They're Cincinnatians. Yeah, but I made friends with somebody who was from Kentucky at my school over there. But I was just, it was really something. And it's not like I tried, but when you see how people really are, and like I said, you know, people, they put on the face, but when you really sit down, and like I said, I've been all over the state, and I've been in different, even, you know, it's just that it's one of them towns. I don't care if you're black, you're white, you're going to see what I'm talking about. Because there have been white people have said the same thing. And they include me in, on their level. They were coming in town when I was living down there. And just having a discussion. Said sometimes they ain't got nothing to do with black and white. It's just that they told me. And one guy was saying, yeah, this Cincinnati is a very conservative town. He says, kind of like how we are out there in St. Louis, Missouri. And I said, wow. And I was talking to this one guy from Minnesota. He said the same thing. He's like, yeah, I'm in my professional, and just people are just, yeah. He said, my neighbors, but once that's it. So yeah, and it's just they carry a certain demeanor down there. They carry a whole different demeanor, and like I said, go visit, but don't be surprised. You get to really talk with people down there. They show you their real side. Some of them, not everybody, but somebody gonna show you that side of them. You gonna see the signs. Anybody watch this video? Like I said, yeah, it looks pretty and nice, and you know, maybe they don't know that you do it once they find, but once you live down there, they find you not from. Maybe they smile at you like a tourist and everything, but you get down there with the regular folks, you'll see what I'm talking about. Yeah, and working down there over the years, because I know things wasn't going on, and when I was living in Youngstown, and there was not much going on over there. It's just kind of things were still kind of was dying back then, and I could have went to Cleveland because that's where my real father's side of the family from, but things were just too expensive up there. And then family members, they I could stay there, but they got their own set of rules. I don't know, they got these certain ways about themselves, and I didn't want to go through all that. So I waited till enough time, and so I and then that's one of the reasons why the move went to Cleveland. And like I said, between Cleveland and Youngstown, even though the majority of my friends and family is still up there, but I living in Ohio, I could tell you this is my experience. Living in different states, like in Columbus, I made a few friends here. Got someone who spiritually mentored me. My neighbors are pretty cool. This place I was staying at before was a shithole. They started out being okay. I lived in a couple of crap holes here, but no one don't really mess with you. No one don't bother you. People kind of friendly. Where I'm at, they don't call the police on you walking down the road. Like I did up north, and I mean, it's just going into my own place. I'm really cool with the resident manager, and being in Columbus, like I said, my spiritual friend is like my mother, spiritual mother. She's here. Columbus, like I said, it has its good points, and it's right now it's going through some crazy points here too. But if I had, even with all the, when that's in any city you go to, whether it's crime, whether it's politics, whether it's not as bad, but at least here you can gravitate to someone here, and they will pick up a friend, neighbor, someone will talk to you, someone will let you know something. That's one thing about Columbus people. They'll let you know. There's someone gonna open up to you. Yeah. They'll let you know. That's one good thing about it. You're like, wow, it's a different atmosphere up here compared to this. Yeah. And if you come to Ohio, you'll see what I'm talking about. Dayton people, it's, they got similar to Cincinnati. Toledo people, well, if I had my friend John, he could tell you about Toledo, Ohio. Toledo, Ohio, but from what he told me, boy, his one of his somewhat related in the family, let's so to speak, I think it was a brother-in-law got in some mess and got him caught up in some mess, and it was some bad situation in Toledo, and he tried to go up there and clear it up in Toledo, man. He told me some stuff about Toledo, and he was so mad that he's about to bring the news channel in on it. And then, he told me, you can catch a case in Toledo, Ohio. I'm like, he was breaking things down. He had to leave off of work because it was something with his identity. And my friend John never had, and he don't hardly go to Toledo. But it was some case that he had to go and get cleared up, man. And then the cops gave him a hard time. The court system gave him a hard time. He told them, I'll never step in the city. I'll never come back to Toledo. I'm like, whoa. And so he hates Toledo, Ohio. He lives in Youngstown now, but he will not go through Toledo, Ohio, because he has some bad run-ins with the court system up there and the justice system. They try to slam people up there. I was like, wow. So I guess I've been through Toledo, but I wouldn't. After hearing that, I was like, no, I don't think I'll go through Toledo, Ohio, or just no, because he also worked in Northwest up there, and some of the little Northwestern towns. They're okay. I have a buddy of mine who live in a small Northwestern town, which is not too far from Sandusky, and he told me about this one girl. He's a white fella, and he told me about he was in an interracial relationship with a black woman here, and they stopped in a town called Tiffin, Ohio, and he said when he walked in there, it's like he said the whole restaurant looked at him like, and him and his girlfriend, he picked that up. Like he said, man, people just didn't. This is not about a couple years ago. So it's not like back in the early 2000s, 90s, and 80s. This is a couple years ago. Because we always been cool. We've been cool since college, and he always had a thing for love black women. He loved some black women, boy. He loved Hispanic and black women because he liked their shape, And so, as a white male, he told me some stuff. I'm like, wow. And I remember when we was away at college years ago, and we was going to Hawking Tech down here southeast of Columbus, and we were. One time I left school, and one day he went off with his girlfriend, and I went went down to like Marietta, Ohio, and down there just want to drive on through, and I come back and and I swear to you, this guy is white. He told me this. He my best buddy. He told me this. I said, yeah, I went down. He said, bro, where you been? I said, I've been down to Marietta, Ohio. He said, what the hell you going down there for? He said, bro. I said, I was just looking for. He said, James, I'm white and I don't go down to Marietta, Ohio. And that just threw me to the I swear to you. I said, no, he sounded like one of my relatives saying that. What the heck you going down? He said, dude. He said, what makes you go down? He was down there. I said, I just wanted to see what it looked like, because I was closer down in that part of Ohio, and I told him, I just did a road trip down. Was just riding, just cruising, and my family would get nervous because I go these different places, And he told him, like, what the hell are you going down there? He said, James, I'm white and I don't go down there. And I'm like, oh, when he said that, I said, damn. And it sounded like one of my relatives that would say that to me. But that's how cool he like family to me, man. He live he knows like, because he's from a predominantly white town, and he's always been very open, and he know when it's bull crap. It's a bull crap, and when he said that, I'm like, are you serious? Like, wow. So I ain't say nothing, man. I never forget that to this day. Every time I laugh, I think about that, man. So he said, man, what the heck you going down there for? He said, they tell me he was white, I don't go down there. I said, well, I didn't go back down there no more after he said that. That told me it itself right there. Like, okay, if my friend white tell me about something like that, he knows something that I know, or he heard something, he know. And so, and it's always been like that with me. I've always been kind of a venture, but I'll be cautious no matter if I was going to the city or going to the country or little small towns. You gotta be careful, because you just never know. And you gotta be careful anywhere you go to, because don't assume something is safe or place where people are nice, as people are. You don't know where you're going, what territory you're going to, or anything. And no matter, like I said, no matter if you're in the city or when you go to a rural, small area, America is different when you have a different skin complexion. Well, America is a whole lot different when if you're the right complexion for the protection, you good. If you look like my complexion or something like that, you gotta be extra careful these days. That's in the city or in the suburbs or in a rural area. But anyway, I just wanted to share my thoughts and on my points of Cincinnati and what I know about different places in Ohio and where I've been, my experiences, and even sometimes I did a recent drive down, even in the cities I went to last year. Went down in Kentucky, but this time I went to Lexington and Frankfort, and the only little oddball town I went to was Georgetown. But other than that, I don't go to them little small country back in the woods town. No. I don't have the complexion for the protection. I mean, no. I don't do that no more. I was brave in my younger years. I know, and there's some black folks say God had to been with you because you the only Negro would do some crazy stuff like that. I said, I didn't think much about it. Hey, I just going on my venture. Like, yeah, but America's different when you have a different complexion. Unfortunately, when you're going through different areas of the country, but if you have the right complexion, oh man, America's great. But when you have the wrong complexion with the wrong ethnic group, you see some stuff. You go through some stuff. Ooh, you see the real part of America. And sometimes you might find a few people smiling, say they think they're cool, but the rest might not look at you like, oh, what the hell are you doing here? And they might just do it with a smile. So, I'm sorry to make this so long, but I wanted to share with you my video on my experiences and and even living here at the time, living down at, like I said, I met a girl one time down there, and she took me down to, she was biracial, and even that experience going down there to Corbin, Kentucky, Somerset, Kentucky, and that was a whole culture shock in itself, going to a small rural Kentucky town where there's hardly no people my complexion. And it was that, and I could tell you more about that. And that, how I met her was in Cincinnati, on the west side of Cincinnati. And her mom, she stayed on her mom's side because her dad's side, who was black, she never got a chance to see her meet her dad's people. She's always been on her mom's side, who was white. And they were from Kentucky. They had a home down there in Kentucky. It was a different experiences, and it was really. I think I probably made a video about that in the past about her, but it was really really eye opening, And like I said, one thing is good about YouTube, that if someone take time out to listen to you, you get the chance to hear someone's life story and hear from what they've been through. And that's one of the things I want to share, my experience. And that's why, and this is my view, this is what I've been through, this is my testimony. Like I said, a lot of people can have a different view, different testimony about their life, but until you see my trail and where I came from, and it's only been God been with me that I'm alive to this day. I ain't strung up on a tree or shot in the street somewhere, you know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna keep it like that. But yeah, man, it's just it's one of my ventures, and I might have to write a book about it one day. And if I do, I'll let some people know. But yeah, Cincinnati. If you go down there, be expecting. For what I told you on this video, I'm telling you. I mean, it's like some people, you got to click in where you fit in. But if you got that certain demeanor, it won't bother you. But if you don't, if you used to being self-centered or kind of staying off and kind of like, you ain't gonna have no problem. But if you that outgoing, love people and do the old, we'll come together and, man, maybe at Kings Island, maybe at the, but you're gonna have to have your own clique, your own crowd when you get down there. You don't click of people unless they move down there with you. Then it won't be so bad. But if you don't got no, if you going down there, moving down there by yourself, and you ain't got no extended family, no friends, and you're gonna end up being with your extended family and friends. That's the only one that can bring you in among those Cincinnati people. They got their own demeanor. So I hope this information. Sorry, this video was so long, and hope it draws someone's interest and someone's curiosity and just someone's outlook on experience of my life, and just being evenly level, just being real, being perfectly honest, not being the good and the bad. Like I said, some good things, like I would mention about the different tourist sites and the hospitals, the schools. Yeah, that's good. But as far as is one place you get up, pick up, do what you gotta do, and go. And go to your next city. Go to your Dallas. Go to your Houston. Go to your Atlanta. Go to your Charlotte, North Carolinas. Go to your Florida. That's the best thing to do. If you go to school, be ready to leave it and get your degree, get your career. Maybe do a year or two, get your money up, and jet to North Carolina. Go to Nashville. Maybe Nashville. I don't know how people are in Nashville, but maybe might be a good city. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. My name is James. Sorry that my getting dark outside is turn on the light here. Till next time, you guys take it easy and you be blessed. and you take care, and happy travels wherever you go. And just keep in mind, the world's a better place. And good luck out there. And enjoy. Take care.